Welcome to the sixth in a series of political candidate forums in advance of the August 23rd primary election. This forum, a cooperative production of the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee, the Tallahassee Democrat, and WFSU Public Media. Our candidates today are running for Tallahassee City Commission Seat 5. I'm Tom Flanagan from WFSU Public Media. I am joined by William Hatfield from the Tallahassee Democrat and Danielle Irwin from the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee. We're going to be questioning the candidates on various topics, so let's take a quick look at the ground rules and then meet those candidates.
All right, the candidates for City Commission Seat 5, sitting left to right, are Shelby Green and Adner Marcelin. We are, of course, joined on virtually by Dianne Williams-Cox. Commissioner, can you please tell us why you are here by Zoom today?
Thank you. Let me just first of all say thank you all for this opportunity to come before you. I am at a conference in Orlando, Florida, where I just had the pleasure of listening to our Vice President speak.
All right, what is the conference?
It is Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which I am a member and so is she.
All right, thank you. For those watching us on social media, please hit the share button and help all your friends see today's discussion. Here is how the forums will work. We will rotate which candidates get to answer first. We have a lot of questions, so we're going to ask the candidates to keep your answers to about 60 seconds, sometimes shorter for follow-ups. We will keep time and we will ding a bell when your time is up. This is what it's going to sound like. You don't have to come to a dead stop right then, but please finish your sentence and we'll move on. We'll always try to tell you how long you have to respond with each question. In the middle of the forum, we will also have a lightning round when we ask you to keep your answers to just one sentence. At the end of the forum, we'll give you 90 seconds to make the case directly to voters and share your website or any other important information.
And if you're watching on Facebook and you have a question for the candidates, go ahead and type them in the comments and we'll get to as many of them as we can. The WFSU Facebook is live now. Time is very limited, so you can improve your chances of your question being asked if you keep it brief, polite, and make it applicable to all candidates. Candidates, do you have any questions before we begin?
No, thank you.
Great, then let's jump in with the first question.
All right, we will do that. And our first question, and we will start with you, Shelby Green, and then Adner Marcelin, and then Dianne Williams-Cox in that order. And this is a 1-minute response, please. What is the number one issue, in your opinion, affecting the city of Tallahassee? Shelby Green.
Great. Well, first, I just want to say once again, thank you guys all for the opportunity. I'm very happy to be here and sharing my vision for Tallahassee. And part of that vision is making Tallahassee a more connected and sustainable city, especially as we see the climate is changing. We have to start investing more into our public infrastructure. And so the biggest issue that I see in Tallahassee is the lack of responsive and adaptive public transportation. Right now, I paid $5 to fill up my gas tank. If we had more reliable, responsive, efficient public transportation, that can reduce the cost of living for our residents here and improve our sustainability and also provide more connectedness throughout the city. So to me, the number one issue in Tallahassee is public transportation.
Thank you very much. Adner Marcelin, same question.
Thank you, Mr. Flanagan. And again, my name is Adner Marcelin, and I also would like to thank you all for putting this forum out and getting these critical answers to our community. For me, the number one issue in this community is poverty and the need for economic development. I have spoken to many residents who share similar stories of not being able to afford rent, the rising prices in food and the rising prices of gas, and just being able to make ends meet. And we know that we can only do that for our residents if we have a market that can give sustainable jobs that pay a livable wage and a respectable wage for individuals. And so the number one issue that I think ties into many issues is poverty and economics. And I think that our economic structure here in the city can be improved and will assist many residents in being able to solve a lot of the issues if we can get more competitive jobs.
Thank you, sir. Dianne Williams-Cox, same question.
question. I agree with Mr. Marcelin. Poverty is, I believe, our number one issue. And out of poverty stems so many of the other issues that we have to deal with. I'm not sitting here thinking about what we can do. I can tell you what we have been doing. We've been making an impact on poverty. It is a part of our strategic plan. We have created opportunities to help eradicate and reduce poverty by providing jobs, job creation mechanisms, and by creating affordable housing, and by providing opportunities for training, job training, and for job fairs, so that we can help bring people out of those situations that are causing them to do things that they may not wish to do or would otherwise be doing other positive things. So I do agree that poverty is our number one issue, and we are doing lots to work on that. Thank you.
All right. The next question is inspired by one from the Urban League. By our count on Tallahassee.com, 13 people have been killed and 48 have been injured in 75 serious shootings this year in the capital city and county. Just this weekend, a former Marine was gunned down as he answered his door at an apartment complex. What specific initiatives will you take to make our communities safe from crime? Adner, Marcelin, you're first on this question.
Thank you. How much time do we have for this question?
1 minute and 30.
Thank you. I have spent and dedicated my career over the last 13 years fighting these social justice issues. And when we're going to deal with senseless gun violence, you have to start with the root. As I said previously, poverty and economic plays a huge part. But then when we look at expulsions and not having follow-up plans with our students that are being affected by those, our school system plays that we have to have a plan and a trade because it is my belief that when other individuals that are committing these senseless crimes in our community have other avenues and other paths to make a productive life, they stray away from crime. We have to make sure that we have the economic opportunities out there and the positive enforcement out there to keep individuals away from crime. Part of that includes prevention. A lot of time when we see law enforcement and their response to these issues, it's literally at the end tail of it. And I just wonder if we focus and invest in prevention programs at the city level that our students and residents that are committing these crimes are actually invested in, we can learn a lot more and address a lot of these issues head on. What I disagree with is when we put an investment such as $1 million for 5 years into a plan, and we don't have any idea what we're going to do with it just yet. It's just sitting in a pool. And too often time, as we've seen with other funds, we see those being misallocated or going to different functions. And so I think that's the answer.
Dianne Williams-Cox, same question.
Could you please repeat the question?
Surely. By our count on Tallahassee.com, there have been 13 people killed, 48 injured, 75 serious shootings this year. What specific initiatives will you take to make our community safe from crime?
Thank you. What we are already doing is we have set aside and committed to $1 million in gun violence per year for the next 5 years. And we, of course, don't have a set plan because we want to hear what the community wants to do. What are the things that the community is willing to do? Because we could buy something off the shelf and it not work for Tallahassee. I believe that we should be working with the school system to make sure that we do some things on the front end to try to keep children from getting into a life of crime. But also we need to do some things to make sure that the adults who are also committing these crimes are also not doing those kinds of things. We have a Parks and Rec program in most communities where we can make sure that children do have alternative things to do. We can also work together to make sure that we have conflict resolution that can be used to try to prevent folks from getting guns to resolve their issues. We can also make sure that those who have guns lock their guns up inside, or if put a lock on them so that they can't be stolen and used in the commission of a crime. We're also doing things like our Tempo program, while we're taking young people who've had a brush with the law and providing opportunities for them to reconnect in a positive manner. I also see us expanding our TFLA program to help our young people earn money so that they can have an honest living. Those are the things that I think will work in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Green, same question.
Yeah, and I think with those statistics, we've seen the number of incidents related to crime and gun violence increasing over the last 5 years. And so, where the city commission should start first is requesting those statistics at every single commission meeting and understanding where is this coming from? Why is crime being committed? And the next step, so just to back up, during the pandemic, a lot of people were struggling, but there were people who were specifically struggling with poverty. We know crime is intrinsically linked to poverty. If we want to solve crime and reduce gun violence, we have to solve poverty as well. When the City Commission had a chance to do that, when they received $46 million in rescue plan funds, they didn't put that towards the community in terms of helping people pay off their utility debt and their rent debt or their mortgage debt. So the City Commission has to understand, first, they need to start tracking publicly this information and realizing current existing opportunities to reduce poverty, to alleviate poverty, and then take the next step to say, okay, we have $1 million to spread out every year for the next 5 years. What are some micro programs that we can put in place? The community has mentioned there's no recreational opportunity. We need to start putting in pocket parks and building out infrastructure that serves the community so people can have other opportunities than going through crime. And so just to wrap up, the city needs to start tracking crime publicly, providing opportunity currently, and investing into public infrastructure.
Thank you. I've heard a couple of you mention the $1 million here. So let's, Dianne Williams-Cox, the city is poised to invest $1 million annually over the next 5 years to stem the bloodshed from gunfire. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of strings on this money on how it can be spent. So how specifically should we use that money to get the most impact? Commissioner?
What my thoughts are on it, and I can share my thoughts. I just believe that we are going to come together as a community. First of all, you have to identify the funding of a funding source. Then we need to identify what we think will work. Now, many of us have ideas of what will work. I've shared many times that I think what we need to do is to invest that in preventive measures. Let's start as early as possible with our children in the school system. I remember when my kids were in school, we had a DARE program. I'm interested in finding out more about what DARE is doing nowadays. What are some of the other services that we can provide, such as the Boys and Girls Club, such as 4-H? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Nope,
the time.
all good. Yep, Shelby Green, same question, 30 seconds.
Where we need to start is actually apologizing to the families that are losing their children to gun violence. First, that money should be spent to pay funeral costs for families that are losing their children. And then once again, identifying current ways, starting tomorrow, to invest that money into reducing poverty and then reducing crime and gun violence.
Thank you. Adner Marcelin.
Thank you for the question. We've heard, countless stories from families who've been impacted by gun violence. And I believe that where we need to begin is that our commissioners need to actually show up. We need to make ample time available, that we create constructive plans, because that's what you serve as a commissioner for, to come up with thoughtful solutions. When we have an issue as grievous as crime in our community, we need to get in, make plans that will develop and save our community from gun violence, and implement them, and just stop.
Thank you.
Just creating pages.
Another 30-second follow-up. We heard from numerous speakers at the city commission meeting yesterday that we should be taking money from the law enforcement budget and funneling it into social services. Is that a concept you support? Shelby Green.
I support taking a full audit of the police budget and identifying deficiencies and also duplications, and taking that money and investing into our local partnerships and our community that know the problems and closer to the source.
Adner Marcelin, same question.
I support taking funding and putting it into what I call prevention. We can still keep the budget within the department, but statistics after statistics show pumping more and more money into the departments is not reducing crime here in our community, and it's not making an impact on the violence. I support being preventative in the community, getting our officers out, getting them to know our neighbors, getting them to know the problems in the community, and then coming up with plans that can address it without making our community and neighbors feel at odds with law enforcement. Thank you.
Same question, Dianne Williams-Cox.
We are already doing it within the police budget. We have instituted, and you've heard in our budget, we're putting together two teams for mental health. So in the instance of a phone call to the police department, if a police officer is not needed, but a mental health counselor is needed, that's what we're doing. I have our officers in our communities serving already and doing community policing.
All right. A last 30-second answer on one last question on crime. On a 1 to 10 scale, how would you rate the current effectiveness of TPD in addressing the issue of gun violence? Adner, Marcelin.
I would not be able to give them a rating at this time. I believe that the way that our department is set up and the over control and the micromanaging from City Hall down to the police department, I don't believe that the police chief has the autonomy to run the department. And so at this time, I would not be able to give them a rating. I think that our police department is ran by the micromanaging going on at City Hall. And I think that we need to hire a chief that we trust, give him the autonomy to run the department, and allow him to run that department. So at this time, I just don't have a rating.
Thank you. Dianne Williams-Cox.
Thank you for the question. I would give our police department an 8 because they're following policy. They're doing what's best for our community. And when they mess up or they make a mistake or something happens, they've been called to make restitution or to fix what needed to be fixed. We created the Citizen Police Review Board to allow for opportunities for common citizens to provide input to them. So they're doing, I would give them an 8. They're doing the best they can with what they have in place. There's always room for improvement.
Thank you. Shelby Green.
I would rate the police department unsatisfactory. While I am grateful for the police department providing representatives to the neighborhood associations during their meetings and talking with residents and putting on crime prevention events, the community is unsatisfied with how the police treats people. And the police department is not leading us in the direction where we're reforming policy on how to treat people and how to reduce crime and how to reduce recidivism and etc. So I think the police department is unsatisfactory.
Thank you.
So let's move off of crime and onto affordable housing. What is the first specific action you would propose to address the need for affordable housing beyond what is already being done? Dianne Williams-Cox, 1 minute for your answer, please.
Let me just start by saying we're doing more now than we've done in the past 50 years for that. We've created ordinances that will allow developers and owners to come in and take apartments and office complexes and convert them into affordable housing, multifamily housing. We're also working with inclusionary housing. We're also working to make sure that folks have an opportunity to earn, to get a down payment. We have 1,900 affordable housing units in the pipeline, more than we've had in the past 50 years, and we're not done yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Green, same question to you, please.
I think that the rate that we're moving is way too slow. We are in a housing bubble right now. My husband and I recently had to get out of the housing market because we just couldn't afford to compete. Right now, the city needs to be investing into helping young families, college students, people across the board to be able to afford to live. The first place the city commission should start is actually having a rental property inventory. Right now, I was on the campaign trail recently and I met someone who's paying $950. His neighbor is moving out and the landlord is raising rents to $1,400. That's almost a 50% increase in rent. So to reform the housing market, we first have to inventory it and put in policy in place that discourages landlords from increasing rent while we're in a housing bubble currently.
Thank you. Adner, Marcelin.
Thank you. I've sat down and we've all heard the stories. We heard the story of the mother of 6 children struggling to make ends meet. We've heard the stories of individuals who could not afford rent. We've dealt with a lot of issues with families that are struggling day to day just to pay a mortgage. For myself, I think that we have to, number one, stop the process of the city doing no bid contracts, giving lands to wealthy developers and special interests. And then we also have to put policies in place that protect our homeowners. We do want to support proper development in communities, but when we see things like Zillow coming in, buying up the market and messing with our market rates and leaving individuals who cannot qualify for homes because we don't have the necessary jobs here, it impacts affordable housing. We need to make sure that we put affordable housing there and make sure that it's more than just a chart, but that it's actually available housing in the market to compete with private investors.
Thank you.
Folks, our next question here will require a 1-minute response maximum, and then I have a 30-second follow-up for two of our candidates. Let's start first with you, Shelby Green, on this. Describe what you believe is the central difference between you and the other candidates for seat 5. 1 minute.
I think the central difference is I have a track record in serving the public and the community. Before running, I had to resign. I was previously a soil and water supervisor, and in that role, I actually developed a program, a water quality program, in partnership with the WFSU College of Engineering because a resident wanted to find out wanted to do a water quality testing. So we responded to her needs and we listened. I also developed an air quality program to monitor our local air quality and publicly communicate that information. So I have a track record of listening to our constituents and providing affordable, efficient, and effective results. And during the pandemic, I actually went out door to door canvassing, letting people know the utility moratorium was ending, that the city did not release a public press release or a notice, and let people know information they could use to provide for public relief funds and prevent utility debt. So I have a track record of serving the public, and have a background in engineering, and I'll move that forward as your next city commissioner.
Thank you. Mr. Marcelin.
Thank you. I would say that what separates me from my opponent is that I have the ability to listen and to make change and not to compromise myself when it comes down to doing the right thing. I think it is a very basic, complex idea of what is wrong and what is right. And the thing that separates me is my pledge to the residents of Tallahassee to do the right thing, to not be influenced by special interests, to not be influenced by money and political contributions. I think that has muddled the way that we serve our community, and we have seen through the indictments, we have seen through the mistrust and the lack of trust by our citizens of City Hall, that we want a City Hall that we can trust, and I believe in that, and I believe we can get there, and I believe that I will do everything in my power to serve the people, and that's where I'm interested in.
Appreciate that. Dianne Williams-Cox.
Thank you for the question. I think what separates me from my opponents is I do have a record to run on. Anyone who wants to know what I've done can actually go and research the record of the items and things that I supported, the things that I've done, not only as a commissioner, but the things that I did prior to becoming a commissioner. I've worked 30 plus years in our community trying to organize and galvanize and speaking out, being the voice of those who were not in the room. But since being a commissioner, we've led on making sure that money is being spent in communities and places where it has never been spent before, making sure that we're righting some of the wrongs that may have taken place. We're shining a light in places where we know we need assistance and we need to have uplift of the people and our community. So I think that I know that my record will reflect what I've done, and that in itself separates me from my opponents. Thank you very much.
Okay, and Ms. Williams-Cox for a follow-up, and then we'll reverse order here across the front of the dais here. If you could talk about your current day job and how you balance the time that is necessary to fulfill the requirements of a Tallahassee City Commissioner, including meeting with constituents, getting up to speed on the issues, talking with staff, other officials, preparing for and attending official meetings, and other unofficial gatherings that are part and parcel of the responsibility as well. So 30 seconds, how do you do that juggling act?
I do nothing but city commission work. Originally, when I ran for office, I had intentions of doing other work, but I found that in order to do this work, it required my full attention. So I am a full-time city commissioner doing all those things you just listed and so much more, including things that are not under our authorization or purview, because I make connections where people are not sure where they need to go. So I do nothing but city commission work. I put my career aside my 30-plus year career aside, and I'm doing just that.
Okay, thank you. Shelby Green.
Right now, I actually work as a researcher studying energy and utility policy to encourage decarbonization. And it's troubling. It's troubling because there's so much information you have to keep up with, and the City Commission does not publish meeting minutes regularly or at a responsibly timely measure. So I rely on using technology to keep up with research and relying on my campaign team to keep up with all of the tasks that we have to do to stay forward in this race.
Okay, thank you.
And
Adner,
can you
Marcelin.
repeat the question, please?
Yes. What is your current day job, if you will, and how would you balance that with the demands of a Tallahassee City Commissioner?
Thank you. Currently, I serve as the city executive for Self-Help Credit Union, which is a nonprofit credit union in town that is mission-oriented to building economic development, helping individuals that traditional banks and credit unions will not meet. I take it as a complete honor to serve in this position because you have the opportunity to help many of the residents of Tallahassee who are struggling and are not getting the resources that they need from their city to make economic means and become self-sustainable. With that being said, I do recognize that the commission has a lot of measures, and I pledge myself to do whatever is necessary, including leaving the job, to complete this task that's necessary. Thank you.
All right. Our next question comes to us from Facebook. Thank you. What can be done at the city level to protect our environment? We will start with Dianne Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Facebook watcher, for that question. What we are doing, we have professionals on staff who are already doing those things. And those reports come to us dealing with environmental issues. We have a new director who is also an attorney who comes to us to guide staff, to provide the information. They're doing the research, they're gathering the data. Because many of you have heard me always asking, show me the data. And we use that information to make informed decisions. Remember, as a city commissioner, we set policy, but we rely on information that we receive to make those policies work for our community, including environmentally friendly policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Green, same question.
The city of Tallahassee is actually in a really fortunate position. We own our own utility system, we the people, and so that means that we can decarbonize our utility system, reduce our reliance on natural gas, and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions going into our environment. And one way we can do that is by investing more in solar energy. We have not built any more solar farms since 2016. We can also increase the capacity and the reliance and reliability of our public transportation system so people don't have to rely on their cars. And we can also strengthen and enforce our current environmental standards so that we are now not allowing people to circumvent them, to cut down our trees, or to influence soil erosion and other negative environmental degradation and impacts.
Thank you. Adner, Marcelin.
Thank you. I think we have to work harder to improve the sustainability plan to have us at 100% by 2050 and make that an aspirational goal and move towards making that happen more quickly for the individuals that are here. When I look at, for an example, the city wants to get away from our gas usages, but we're incentivizing with our utility program more residents for new homes putting gas lines in their houses. These are the kinds of practices that will take us more and more time to get towards that renewable energy goal. I also think that we have to stop with wasteful spending, such as making new roads out to Wilani and long divisions, and make sure that we do things that would reduce emissions and reduce our impact and not rely on staff to do everything. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We go on to some neighborhood issues now, if we might. And our first answer will be 1 minute in length, and we have several follow-ups that we'll be exploring as well. First, numerous neighborhoods within Tallahassee and Leon County are struggling with poverty. You folks have already referenced that. What role should local economic development efforts and development incentives play in promoting more equitable prosperity? And what's one specific plan that you would implement to make meaningful progress in this generational challenge? 1 minute, Shelby Green, you first.
Yeah, I think that a lot of our neighborhoods, especially on the west and south side of town, are struggling with poverty. And as we mentioned before, if we want people to come out of poverty or to at least alleviate the hardships of poverty, the very first step is to make living more affordable for them. There are several things that the City Commission can do in conjunction with the county on Blueprint to alleviate the hardships of poverty. But one of the first places where I would start is increasing access to the market. Right now, it's very difficult for entrepreneurs and local businesses to enter the market, to get permitting for businesses, and to increase their clientele. The very first thing the City Commission can do is very basic, but have a local business inventory and a how-to guide in terms of permitting for people who want to start their own businesses. The next step, once again, is public transportation. If we can use our public transportation as a way to compete against Lyft or Uber Eats, that will provide economic development, that will provide jobs, and that will once again reduce poverty.
Thank you. Dianne Williams-Cox, same question.
Thank you. What the city is, what the city is already doing in these neighborhoods is we're working with them hand in hand with their neighborhood first programs in Frenchtown, Bond, and in Griffin Heights to provide the uplift and the upkeep of those neighborhoods so that we, streetscaping, rehabbing homes, creating jobs. We've also included in that in especially in the Griffin Heights, we promise that whatever work is being done in Griffin Heights, the individuals who live in that community will have an opportunity to participate and earn money doing that so that they can then use those dollars right there within their community. We're trying to make sure that jobs, we have livable wage paying jobs, providing training so that individuals can get higher paying jobs. Job creation is going to be the number one thing that's going to help our neighborhoods. And we're on our way to making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Adner Marcelin.
Thank you. I believe that we have to start as a city of making funding and training available. I've heard from many of the constituents within the community that say we struggle when it comes down to learning the process of the city, learning how to put bids in that are actually successful. You see many traditional nonprofits companies, the same ones getting all of the economic dollars for the city. If we want to reinvest in neighborhoods, we have to make sure that that training is available for individuals. We have to make sure that our citizens and our residents in Tallahassee have access and training so that they can put proposals in and make micro grants available to communities so that they too can participate in the process and enjoy economic prosperity. Poverty is always going to be the top of the goal. We have to invest in the neighborhoods. We have many opportunities, homes that are, look like blight and are not as well, could be torn down and rebuilt and put back in the market as affordable housing options to make it affordable for people. And I think we have to do several things to get in the market and make it affordable.
All right, sir. A 45-second follow-up, and Mr. Marcelin, will stick with you to start us off on that one. Do we have a gentrification problem in Tallahassee, do you think? And if you think we do, what's one way you could help fix that?
Absolutely. We have all sat in the rooms and watched how, corporations can come before the city, give kickbacks before and after votes to campaign contributions, and then get no bid properties. And we have heard through the Human Relations Council many of the residents whose property taxes go up as a result of development all around. We are entering into a gentrification problem because you can just look across in Frenchtown and see all the rise of student housing complexes there, but we still hear and ignore the cries of the public about how they cannot simply afford basic housing. So yes, I do believe that we have a gentrification problem happening right now in Tallahassee.
Okay, your thoughts on that one, Shelby Green?
Yeah, we absolutely have a gentrification problem in Tallahassee, and that problem has existed since desegregation. Tallahassee has a history of using public dollars to clear out land, remove people, say they're going to build more housing for them, and then instead they're displaced and they can't afford to live anywhere else. And we've seen that recently with the Orange Avenue apartments, where people were told they were going to receive Section 8 housing vouchers, and people were told they were going to be able to move back into those houses, but those houses are going to be or those apartments are going to be at market rate. And instead, they're receiving Section 8 housing vouchers when the market is already flooded with those vouchers. And so if Tallahassee is serious about reducing its gentrification problem, we need to prioritize the people who are already living here and build for them and not for luxury student housing.
Thank you. We'll wrap this one up with Dianne Williams-Cox.
Well, thank you for the question. And Tallahassee is no different than what's happening all across our country. But what is different about Tallahassee is that we have commissioners and we have others in our community advocates who are working very hard to prevent gentrification from occurring. And in order to make that happen, we have to work with our neighbors to make sure that what we're doing is not pricing them out, but instead pricing them up, helping them raise the value of their homes by doing some of the things that will incentivize neighbors to do to increase the value of their homes, and so that they can stay in their homes and not move them out of their homes. No one's interested. I'm not interested in displacing generations of individuals who are proud members of our community and our neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Williams-Cox, while we're with you here, another 45-second follow-up, if you would. Are the current CRAs, community redevelopment agencies, and their funding being used properly and to the greatest benefit? Why or why not? And if you could name specific changes you might like to see in the way the CRA operates.
Well, let me say this, that yes, they are operating properly and effectively and efficiently. And one of the things that we did was we brought in for the Southside Frenchtown CRA, we brought in an executive director who is community minded, who was experienced in other communities, who grew up here in the city of Tallahassee. So he has the passion, the know-how, and the fortitude to move forward to make sure that we are doing all the things that we should do by law and by the community to make sure that CRAs are doing what they need to do. He's also responsible for the downtown CRA. So I believe that we are moving forward in the proper manner and in the proper speed with our CRA, with the CRA director and his staff. They're going out of their way to make sure that they're doing everything they can to make sure the CRAs are doing what they should be doing. So I'm confident in that.
Okay, thank you. Adner, Marcelin, the CRA question, please.
I think that the CRA, as it stands, is operating, but it could use some significant overhaul. I think one of the most important things that I've heard from Tallahassee residents is that we want to see more public input into the CRA so that we can have our vision brought forward into communities, and to make sure that when we're spending these dollars, we're spending them for the good of all of the community and not just some who have access to the electeds or their high executive level staff. I think when you're talking about the CRA, it's very important to note that the CRA, it's a board, and we can take public input. We have to go back to putting in training into the CRA so that regular citizens can make sure that they come in and have the training necessary to be able to apply and know what that process is.
Okay, very good. And Shelby Green, you would.
The CRA funding is operating, but the real question is who is it operating for? If you look at recent examples like the development on South Monroe, that development was able to receive CRA funding, and there were actually several residents who expressed concerns about that development and how it has led to, once again, the displacement of local businesses. Bontai, that used to be there, that is now on, I believe, Appalachia Parkway or North Monroe, one of the two. And then there was a local gym. So there were local businesses who were told that they would be able to come back, and now they can't come back once the development's done because they cannot afford to be there. That is displacement, and that is gentrification, and we should not allow public dollars to move that effort forward. Instead, once again, we need to be listening and investing into people and local residents in our economy.
Another 30 seconds for a little more detail on that, because that was a great lead into the follow-up here that we have to close out this particular segment. Ms. Green, if we can ask you this here. Local government sometimes criticized by a number of folks as being more responsive to the business and the development community than to ordinary citizens here. So what do you do about that? And is it a perceptual or an actual problem, do you think?
It is an actual problem. We need we need to recognize that we have a local economy here. All of the money that is generated would go back to the people who generated that money. The issue here is who are our commissioners representing? Is it the will of the people or is it the will of someone else? That is the real question here, and that is what this election is about. We are at a turning point in Tallahassee. We, the people, deserve to be represented and prioritized, and we deserve investment.
Okay, Mr. Marcelin, your thoughts on that, please.
I would have to share in Ms. Green's response that it's not a perception problem. It's actual a reality and a natural problem. Our commissioners focus and should be focused on is serving the people. And when they make decisions, sometimes it leaves you every day to question whose interests are they serving. We want everyone to thrive in Tallahassee. We want Tallahassee to be that thriving community that is expansion in that all-American city. But we cannot have that when we prioritize the needs of those who have access to our electeds and not take care of our citizens.
Okay, we'll wrap this up with Dianne Williams-Cox, please.
I am every or let me say to make sure that we have a great balance because the residents in our community need jobs. And those jobs pay them to be able to do and live in our community. But I am not sacrificing residents for businesses. And so we have to come together and make sure that we have that opportunity to work together to create the beloved community where one feeds the other. Because the community will not thrive without having an economic development piece. But the business will not thrive without having a community piece. So we must work together to make sure that we're doing all that we can to have a well-balanced city.
Thank you. So we are going to talk about Blueprint just for a minute here, and we'll start with you, Adner Marcelin. What was your position on the recent Blueprint vote to allocate $27 million to renovate Doak Campbell Stadium from the money required to be spent for economic development projects? Explain your answer. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. It was very simple. It was just a decision of right and wrong. And my answer was no, we should not have done it. I think that this decision is going to have a critical impact, but not just in what we did and what we gave away, but it's now what will never be. We'll never have these small businesses that will have the funds available to grow their business to medium-sized businesses. We will not have the money on the table anymore to make negotiating decisions when we want to negotiate these jobs that want to come to Tallahassee. And you know, we can flip it as many ways as we want to. It was just an economically bad decision and a fiscally irresponsible decision, and something that, in my opinion, should not have happened. It's not to say that institutions could not have gotten some money. It's not about FSU. This was about a gross misuse of money when we have higher priority issues like poverty and other issues that we could have used this money to help solve. And when we now have a $2 million deficit in the city budget, I only can imagine if some of these funds could have been used to cover some of those deficits. Thank you.
Thank you. Dianne Williams-Cox, same question to you.
I am happy that I was able to support many projects in our community using Blueprint dollars. Bringing Amazon to town through the Office of Economic Vitality and Economic Development dollars from the Blueprint, that was also used for that. Making sure that those dollars would come into Tallahassee on football game days or FAMU. I was happy to support that. I was happy to support the expansion of Danvos to bring in more opportunities for jobs. I was happy to support TCC coming in asking for $1 million to be able to expand and be able to bring tournaments to town. I was happy to support the safety enhancements for Florida State University, because those dollars will come to Tallahassee and we will get much community benefit. In fact, we're sharing on our website the community benefits that we receive just from the FSU piece, but we receive so many more community benefits from FAMU and TCC and others that we invested in. Happy to have supported those projects.
Thank you. Shelby Green.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. What was your position on the recent Blueprint vote to allocate $27 million to renovate Doak Campbell Stadium from the money required to be spent for economic development projects?
I was against giving FSU $27 million, and the main reason is because Blueprint dollars are supposed to be for the public benefit and the public interest. The public is interested in saving money. The public is interested in having a quality of life and public safety and access That money has been used to provide stadium upgrades that most of the public will not even be able to benefit or enjoy. It costs several $100s to even get into the stadium with a ticket. Instead, that money should have been invested into the people. One example is Amazon is coming into town and we're not providing any public transportation for people to get out there. We could have used blueprint dollars to provide transportation, to open up our market, and to once again invest and prioritize in the people who are in charge of the direction of this city. Blueprint dollars are for the people, and the commissions, by voting in favor of it, were not representing the will or the interests of the people.
Thank you. Dianne Williams-Cox, I have one follow-up for you specifically. You serve on the Blueprint Board and have just told us today of your happiness on your vote. Do you have any regrets on how this all played out, and is there anything you would have done differently?
I regret that there's so much misinformation in our community. The Office of Economic Vitality is not broke. We still have millions of dollars in there that will be used to enhance and entice other businesses to come to town. We've created opportunities for micro lending for small businesses. During the pandemic, we allocated $1 million for nonprofits as well as for small businesses to bring them through this pandemic. So I'm just, the disappointment is that it has become a misinformed and divisive part of our community.
Thank you.
And how to correct that, I'm not sure.
Thank you. All right, we're going to change up the pace a little bit, though we've been moving quickly. We've been covering a lot of territory. I'm betting we're going to go about 15 minutes over because we're having a great discussion here, and I hope you'll all indulge us on that. But right now we're going to go to the lightning round. Okay. The way the lightning round works is I'm going to ask you pretty well simple questions, generally with a yes or no type response. I'm looking for a quick answer and then a explanation in one sentence. So yes, because you can add an and in there. Let's not do too much run-on sentences, but you get the idea. So we're going to start here with Shelby Green. And how many city commission meetings have you attended, and how many have you spoken at, and on what topic?
At this point, I've attended too many to count, but the main ones I've attended were last summer during the pandemic when our city voted to end the utility moratorium without providing a public press release and without communicating debt relief options for our residents here. Thank you.
Adner Marcelin.
Thank you. I've had the opportunity to attend several commission meetings, too many to count, over the years. I've been the NAACP president here, and I've attended and spoke out on many issues, including our search, the need for accountability, ethics, and the proper operation of our city, if I should say,
Thank you.
The advocacy of that. Thank you.
Commissioner, I hear you speak at the meetings, but anything to add in one sentence?
Well, let me just say, prior to becoming a commissioner, I did attend commission meetings, and I will tell you that I came down and I gave them holy hell because I did not believe that we were getting information into our community. So I came to the city commission and I've attended every meeting.
All right.
Since I came.
Okay, next, Adner Marcelin, what does the word progress for Tallahassee mean to you in one sentence?
Progress for me means inclusion, to include all of Tallahassee in whatever we're doing, be it growth and development. It's just it's inclusivity, if I have to say a word.
Dianne Williams-Cox.
I agree that progress means we must be inclusive. We must include all the voices, not just those who make it to the commission meeting, but for those who are out there in the community who can't make it to the commission meeting. And that's what I do.
Thank you. Shelby Green.
Progress encompasses movement in the positive direction for everyone, and that needs to be applied on the spectrum. What is progress for one is not progress for everyone, and that needs to be remembered that progress is relative, but it requires movement in the positive direction.
All right, Dianne Williams-Cox, what's one pledge you would make to voters right now that you will accomplish if elected?
I pledge to do everything that I can possibly do to help reduce poverty in our city.
Thank you. Shelby Green.
I pledge to do the best I can to be our next city commissioner, and I will do that by opening up our housing and our economic market and by increasing the capacity to communicate properly with the public and
Thank
also...
Adner Marcelin.
I pledge to show up to be there, to be present, to be knowledgeable on what's going on in City Hall and to fight for the people like I've been doing for the last 13 years.
Thank you. Shelby Green, have you received any bundled contributions from developers or others who give under numerous corporation names or related individuals? And if so, what should voters take away from that? Shelby Green.
No, I have not. But if voters keep in mind, if you are going to vote for someone, look at their campaign contributions. You can find that out at leonvotes.gov.
Thank you. Adner Marcelin.
No, I have not received any bundled contributions. I'm running a grassroots campaign, and I think that that's very important. I think that the voters can take away from it exactly where the interest of those who are sitting on the commission and whose interest that they serve.
Thank you. Dianne Williams-Cox.
I do not discriminate on who contribute to my campaign. And to be, it's open. Take a look. I do not discriminate. I need all the money that I can get to make sure I continue to do this good work for our city. Thank you.
And what should voters take away from what they see in your campaign contributions?
What they know of me from the past 30 plus years of working in the community. I'm unbought and unbossed. I'm going to do what I believe to be best for all people.
Thank you. Adner Marcelin, what is the biggest investment that needs to be made in the South Side?
I think economic development in the South Side, as well as structural development, such as food deserts that we need to cure by putting in grocery stores and investing in businesses that will give and improve the quality of life in the South Side.
Thank you. Dianne Williams-Cox.
I believe that the implementation of the South Side Action Plan that we're working from to make sure that we have a balanced South Side, to bring the South Side up to the level of others in our community, which includes economic development, housing, job.
Thank you. Shelby Green.
Opportunity.
The biggest investment needs to be public infrastructure when it comes to transportation, when it comes to being able to access solar panels and the financial benefits of solar energy, and being able to provide microeconomic development options for our existing entrepreneurs and businesses in Southside who need support and are asking for it.
Dianne Williams-Cox, aside from family, who do you view as your local mentor in life and in pursuing this seat, aside from family?
I have many mentors, and I don't want to start calling names because I don't want to offend anyone, but many have poured into my life. This is my 5th time running for office, so I have many mentors who've helped me along the way.
Thank you.
And they know who they are.
Shelby Green.
This is my first time running for office. I'm running a very grassroots campaign, and I actually rely on the support system I had last summer when I was canvassing in the neighborhood, specifically the Providence neighborhood, and the executive members within that community.
Thank you. Adner Marcelin.
I have 2 that I would say personally. The first one is the late Anita Davis, who poured a lot into teaching us what was right. She was a county commissioner here and led the way there. And the second that I would say would be Commissioner Debbie Lightsey, who is a great mentor to have in showing what's the right way to continue going forward.
Thank you. The city manager serves at the pleasure of the city commission. Reese Goat has been serving as city manager since 2018. What letter grade would you give to Reese Goat this year and why? Shelby Green.
I would give City Manager Reese Goat a C, and the main reason is because we have issues with our budget. We have issues with constituents complaining about a lack of transparency and communication. This year, the city's utility rates have gone up twice, but we still received a deficit.
Adner Marcelin.
I would give the city manager a C, only because I believe that we need improvement. Many of the discontent that has happened in between citizens and the city itself is not there. We need greater transparency with the news of indictments and everything. We need more.
Dianne Williams-Cox.
It is public knowledge that I've already given the city manager an A, but there's always room for improvement. And not just the city manager, but all of our appointed officials have received an A because of the performance against our strategic plan that we all agreed upon.
Thank you. Adner Marcelin, name one specific thing the city is not spending enough money on and one thing the city is spending too much money on.
Well, I would say not spending enough money on housing and development. We need to pour into that to address this rent crisis that is really targeting the community. Spending too much money on pay raises for individuals and executive levels. What I would have to say.
Thank you. Dianne Williams-Cox.
I think that the city is doing a great job in spending our money wisely. We're holding our millage rate to 4.1. And there are a lot of things that people think that we could be doing, but who's willing to raise our taxes to do it? So I believe that the city is doing a balanced job, as balanced as possible, to make sure that everyone gets what they need and some of the wants.
Shelby Green, same question.
I believe the city is spending too much money on contracts. We should be using our money, too much money on contracts. We should be increasing economic development by expanding our workforce and doing the work ourselves. And we're not spending enough money on our workers, especially with the passing of or the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Workers who are OPS and work less than 30 hours a week do not have access to city health care. We need to make sure they have access to health care.
Okay, last question of the lightning round. Dianne Williams-Cox, we'll start with you. What is the single biggest thing you've done in the community to make the city a better place to live? I'm looking for one single thing, the single biggest thing.
I have been showing up and being there for my residents, for our residents in the city of Tallahassee.
Thank you. Shelby Green.
The biggest thing I did was combating the city's unwillingness to communicate basic information about the expiring of a utility moratorium and canvassing within neighborhoods so that they could receive this information and apply for debt relief.
Thank you. Adner, Marcelin.
I would say dedicating my career in public service in Tallahassee to fight for the voiceless here in Tallahassee.
Thank you. All right. You all made it through the lightning round. We just have two more questions before we get to closing time, where you'll be able to speak directly to voters. WFSU is next.
There we go. Okay, well, let's start off with a topic that is certainly not controversial or very few people talking about. It's called ethics. And let's start with you, Shelby Green, if we could. A 1-minute question here, and then I have a follow-up afterwards. If you could talk about whether the city's current ethics code is adequate, especially when it regards such things as lobbyist regulation, and whether you support the Independent Ethics Board having jurisdiction over board members and the staff of the Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA board, and the Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency. 1 minute.
The city has historically had issues with ethics, and so although the mayor claims that we've passed the strongest ethics reform package in the state, that is not enough. We've had 2 past mayors that have been indicted. We need a stronger ethics package, and we need more open communication about who is able to talk, communicate, and potentially influence our city commissioners. And I also support the Independent Ethics Review Board to take whatever policy measures they need to be able to accomplish more transparency, more accountability, and more public oversight in how our dollars are being spent and who is able to communicate and influence or lobby our city commissioners.
Okay, Dianne Williams-Cox, ethics.
This commission has made great strides in ethics, and we have adopted the strongest ethics policy of any commission in my recent knowledge. And we do work very well with the Independent Ethics Board. Dwight Floyd and Carlos Ray are regulars with us, and we work together. We don't always agree, but we have worked well together. And I think that before we make more changes, just to be making changes on the fly, we need to let what we have in place settle so that we can determine what works and what doesn't work. Let's not forget that there is a state ethics overarching policy, a law in place that we're all under anyway. So this is just an additional based on what the residents of the city of Tallahassee wanted us to do, and I am in full support of it.
Okay, Adner, Marcelin.
Thank you. To make this very simple, I think that it's not a wise decision to hire a fox to guard the hen house. I think we systematically have an issue when we are asking our commissioners whether they want to come underneath the ethics board, independent ethics board. I fully support Commissioner Matlow's plan to bring our blueprint and everything under the Independent Ethics Board's jurisdiction. I think that the residents of Tallahassee deserve to know who our commissioners are meeting with, what lobbyists they're meeting with, what's the nature of that business. And I think that when we do everything in transparency and in the light, that it will prevent us from having to find things out before. We are now, with the indictment of Commissioner Maddox, We are now learning things later on and how deep the impact was, how much trust was broken. And I only wait to see, with other situations, what will come out later. I do think that ethics is a strong priority for myself, and I think that we need to do everything to strengthen our ethics and lobbying laws.
All right, sir, since we're with you here, if we could get you to expand on that for about a minute here, seeing as how another former mayor and former city commissioner recently indicted for corruption charges. So if I could ask you, what does that say about the city at large, and do these situations point to a culture problem at City Hall?
For myself, first, I come from a legal profession. Everyone's entitled to the presumption of innocence, and I don't think it'd be appropriate to pass any judgments on this pending indictment until it has been heard and they've had their day in court. I will say that overall, we can learn from these experiences and put things in there without making judgments on anyone for prevention and strengthen our lobbying laws. We've had that opportunity, and we've all sat in the room when we had that measure come up by the Independent Ethics Board, and we watched the current commission vote those measures down and then try to put incremental steps in there subsequently later. And we have to pay attention to that. We cannot allow our commissioners to decide when and what authority they'll give the Independent Ethics Board to control them. It must be the other way around. Thank you.
Shelby Green, please.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, certainly. The fact that we had yet another mayor/city commissioner indicted, and what does that and the situations you already referenced in your previous response say about City Hall, and is this a cultural problem, do you think, at City Hall?
Yeah. The issue here is that we have commissioners who do not believe in accountability and who do not believe in transparency. The issue is we have a commission that needs to make sure this behavior is not acceptable, and the way that we do that is by having a transparent budget, transparent processes where the public can participate and communicate and have oversight. That is the first step that we need to take to make sure we can restore the public's trust in our government and ensure that we are taking care of the people and not lobbyists or others who influence policy.
Okay, thank you, Dianne Williams-Cox. We'll end this one with you, please.
Thank you. Let me say this, that at City Hall, we have some of the best and finest individuals working for the city of Tallahassee. Some of them, many of them career city employees and community residents in our community, and I value their service. Now, we've had some issues occur prior to this commission coming in place. It has been my responsibility, my job, along with my other commissioners, to make sure that we close the gap and not allow for what has happened in the past that was not good to happen again. So we have made some changes to prevent those things from happening. And as more comes to our attention, we'll work on those as well. But do not be confused. The culture at City Hall is one that is thriving and growing because we have true professionals from the janitors up that are doing everything we can to restore the public's trust in City Hall. Thank you.
Okay, great. So here is one of your final questions. So we're going to start with you, Dianne Williams-Cox. Last October, the City Commission adopted a resolution which supports reproductive health care, including abortion, in a 3-2 vote, and you voted against it. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we're seeing prosecutors in Charlotte, Atlanta, and Indianapolis pledging not to use public resources to pursue abortion providers. New Orleans, meanwhile, is among the first cities to direct police not to investigate abortion cases, with several others following suit. Do you think the city should pursue these actions or others in the wake of the Roe v. Wade ruling? 1 minute.
Thanks to my civics teacher, I understand what we can and cannot do in the city as opposed to what the state or federal laws are. As a city commissioner, as a city, we have no role in doing this. If anything is done, it's ceremonial and it's not even, cannot be enforced. What I did say is that I do support a woman's choice. It's a woman's choice between what to do with her body. And I've said that forever because I believe it. I do not have to sign on to something that we cannot do anything with. We cannot authorize it. It does not stand up in a court of law or anything. I support a woman's choice for her body. And whether we can do anything about it or not, I have fought for that. I have spoke on that, and I believe that. Now, again, our community is being misinformed and misled. The city has no role in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Green, same question to you.
Yeah, the city cannot regulate abortions, but the city can make sure that everyone has adequate access to reproductive health care. The first step the city can take is making sure their OPS part-time workers have access to health care. The city can make sure that people have access to contraceptives. The city can make sure that we partner with our local institutions and universities to provide town halls and discussions and educational services to the people who live here. So although the city cannot regulate abortions, they can provide better access to reproductive health care.
Thank you, Shelby Green. Adner Marcelin.
Thank you. I think when we looked at the resolution wasn't asking for the city to take steps that it could not have. What the resolution was asking was for support of an issue, and the people needed the commissioners to show up. And we noted that the incumbent in this race did not show up and did not do that. But also, I would say that it's not this resolution is not going to stop or hinder abortions from happening. It's just going to make them less safe, and it's going to put this in the community. I've been to numerous rallies put on by various folks on this issue. I have not seen the incumbent there once. If this is an issue that she believes in, I believe that we would be there. I also say when I look at ectopic pregnancies, the professionals suggest that ending a pregnancy of that nature is also a solution. And so I am concerned for the residents that live here and want to make sure that they know that we'll protect them and that we will do everything to make sure that they have a safe abortion if that's their choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Adner Marcelin. Dianne Williams-Cox, we're going to let you have a 20-second response to this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am the only one in this race who has had an ectopic pregnancy. I am probably the only one in this room who accompanied a friend to actually have an abortion. Now, I do not have to sign my name to something that will go nowhere to show that I support. I do not have to prove that I am pro-choice.
Thank you.
I have done things that shows that I am pro-choice. Thank you.
All right, we have made it to the closing. This is your chance to talk directly to voters and make the case to them. You can share your website if you like. You have 90 seconds. Shelby Green, you're going to start us off, and we're going to work our way down.
Hey, hi listeners out there in Tallahassee and across the world. My name is Shelby Green. I am an engineer, researcher, former public servant, and I am running to bring your desires to City Hall to protect the people and prioritize us in our government. We need a local government that is responsive to our needs. We need a local government that is transparent and driven by the people and data instead of arbitrary decisions that are influenced by lobbyists who are trying to move Tallahassee in a direction that doesn't serve us. So I want to see Tallahassee be sustainable, affordable, equitable for everyone. I want to see a Tallahassee that invests into public infrastructure, transportation, our utility system. And if you want to learn more, you can go to my website at shelbytlh.com, or you can meet me in person at the Blue Tavern Friday, July 22nd at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Adner Marcelin.
Thank you. And again, thank you all for putting this on. To the residents of Tallahassee, I am here running to earn your vote. And the reason that I decided to run is because I am no different than many of you all. I'll be honest, I don't have all the answers and all the solutions, but one thing that I do have is the ability to listen and to do the right thing and to show up for you. One of the things that I will say is that I am fighting to make sure that Tallahassee is an inclusive place, a safe place, a place where you can grow your business, a place where you can raise your family, and a place where we will fight for you. I am proud to be supported by our labor unions, our firefighters, our teachers, our line workers, and many more. This is my first time running for public office, and I ask that you learn more about my campaign and my candidacy at www.heyadner.com. That's heyadner.com. I'm going to do everything that I can to fight for you all and to make sure that I am improving your quality of life and I will not sell you out when I get there. I've grown in poverty. I've grown up in poverty, lived in poverty, and I understand the struggles that you all are experiencing today. It's nothing that needs to be said, just a reassurance and a promise and a pledge for me that I will do everything in my power to make sure that I represent you. And when I get on the dais, I will not switch up on you as many people have done. It's saddened me to hear a lot of people say that they've lost trust in government and the officials that they've elected because they changed. But I promise you, you can hold me accountable that I will not change. Thank you.
Dianne Williams-Cox, close us out.
Thank you to the residents of the city of Tallahassee for your faith in me as your city commissioner. What you found is that from 30 plus years of working in this community, I understand you because I am you. I am working for us. I didn't just get here. We've been here together, and I have continued to be your voice. I promised you that I would be your voice in the room. I am still your voice in the room. And I am not only your voice in the room, I am the voice that comes out of the room to share with you what is going on in the room. I am the commissioner who have brought the commission meetings to our communities so that you could access them. I am the commissioner who is constantly informing you of the availability of resources to do what needs to be done to move you forward in our city. I am the commissioner who is working very hard with our city manager, with our city attorney, our city inspector, and our city treasurer clerk to make sure that all residents get what they need to move forward in our city, be it job creation, be it housing, be it education. I know how to partner and collaborate with others in our community to deliver for you. And I believe that we have done that together in these almost 4 years. I'm asking you to let me continue to do this great work that we have started. We are not there yet, but I am still committed to getting there with you. Learn more about me at www.diannewilliamscox.com. Thank you very much for your support.
And that concludes this forum. Our thanks going out to the Tallahassee Democrat, the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee, WFSU Public Media, and our candidates for joining us for the program. And you can find a replay of the show on our YouTube pages, Tallahassee.com, along with WFSU.org. And the recorded broadcast will be on your radio Tuesday, July 19th at 11 in the morning on WFSU 88.9 FM.
Our next forum will be Tuesday, July 19th at 1 p.m., and it will be with the 4 candidates for Leon County School Board District 1, Marianne Arbulu, Anthony DeMarco, and Alva Swafford-Striplin.
And stick with Tallahassee.com for the latest election news. And you can look for our special election section of the Tallahassee Democrat with interviews with all the candidates on the ballot, which will be printed and inserted on Sunday, August 7th. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, candidates, for joining us. Have a great day.